As I sit here reflecting on the events that have transpired, I'm compelled to ask, what would you do if you came face to face with an evil spirit that seemed determined to ruin your life? The thought sends shivers down my spine, and yet it's a reality that I've had to confront. Did you know that 45% of people who've experienced paranormal events claim they've felt a malevolent presence? I'm one of them, and my story begins on a cold October night, when the shadows in my home seemed darker than usual and the air felt unnervingly heavy. The wind outside was howling like a chorus of restless spirits, and the trees creaked and groaned as if they were trying to warn me of something. I tried to brush it off as mere coincidence, but the feeling of being watched lingered, making my skin crawl. That night I heard a faint whisper, a voice that wasn't mine, but seemed to be coming from all around me. It was a soft, raspy whisper, like the gentle rustling of dry leaves, but it sent a chill down my spine. At first, I thought it was just the wind or my imagination playing tricks on me, but as I listened more closely, I realized that the voice was saying something. The words were indistinct, but the malevolent intent was clear. What followed was a chilling journey into the unknown, one that would test my courage, my wits, and my sanity. I've tried to convince myself that it was just a figment of my imagination, but deep down I know the truth. The voice was real, and it was only the beginning of a descent into a world of terror and darkness, where the lines between reality and nightmare were blurred beyond recognition. As I look back, I'm still trying to make sense of it all, to find a way to explain the unexplainable. But the memories of that fateful night remain etched in my mind like a scar. The question is, would you have handled it differently? Or would you have succumbed to the same fear and paranoia that threatened to consume me? The concept of spirits, ghosts, and entities has long been a source of fascination and terror, captivating the imagination of many. For years I was a skeptic, dismissing the idea of their existence as mere fantasy. That was until I was faced with the undeniable reality of their presence in my own life. It began with seemingly innocuous events, a misplaced item here, a creaking door there. I attributed it to the wind, my own forgetfulness, or the old house settling into its foundations. But as time passed, the occurrences grew more frequent and more intense. It wasn't just objects shifting out of place, it was the unshakable feeling of being watched, the eerie cold spots that seemed to seep into my bones, and the faint whispers that echoed through the silence of the night. The line between reality and the unknown began to blur, and I was forced to confront the possibility that I was not alone in my home. The night that changed everything was like any other, until it wasn't. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of heavy, labored breathing. My bedroom was shrouded in an inky blackness that seemed to suffocate me, but I could sense a presence looming at the foot of my bed. The air was thick with an unspeakable malevolence, and I was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or escape. I tried to convince myself it was just a nightmare, a product of my own fevered imagination, but the sensation refused to fade. The presence seemed to be watching me, waiting for me to make a move, and I was frozen in terror. The next morning, I stumbled out of bed to find scratches on the wall near my bed, as if something had been clawing at it with a desperate fury. The marks were deep and jagged, and they seemed to pulse with a malignant energy. As the days passed, the incidents escalated with a terrifying intensity. My lights would flicker and dim without warning, plunging me into darkness. Mirrors would fog up with an eerie, unnatural mist, as if something was trying to obscure its own reflection. And I started seeing fleeting shadows darting around corners, always just out of sight but leaving behind a trail of dread. I realized with a growing sense of horror that I wasn't just dealing with a ghost or a restless spirit. This was something darker, something ancient and evil, something that seemed to be stirring, awakening from a deep slumber. The presence was growing stronger, more aggressive, and I was running out of time to uncover its secrets and defend myself against its wrath. Desperate for answers, I turned to the internet, scouring every corner of the web for information about malevolent spirits. I devoured articles, blogs, and forums, learning about protective rituals, cleansing techniques, and the importance of not showing fear. I discovered that these entities thrive on terror and negativity, and that the key to defeating them lies in strength, courage, and determination. Armed with sage, salt, and a few prayers I found online, I steeled myself for a confrontation with the entity. I was determined to reclaim my home and my life, and to banish the darkness that had taken hold. I began with a cleansing ritual, walking through each room of my house with burning sage, reciting words of protection and purification. The pungent aroma of the sage filled the air, and I felt a sense of hope and renewal. At first, it seemed to work. The atmosphere in the house lightened, and the oppressive feeling that had been weighing me down began to lift. I felt a sense of peace and calm that I hadn't experienced in weeks. But as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the entity was waiting for me to let my guard down. And then, at exactly 3 a.m., I was jolted awake by the sound of shattering glass. My bedroom mirror had cracked down the middle, and written in the condensation was a single, chilling word: leave. The message was clear. The entity was not going to go quietly into the night. It was going to fight back, and it was going to make me suffer. Terrified but determined, I reached out to a local medium, hoping that she could provide some guidance and support. She listened to my story, her expression growing increasingly grave, and then she dropped a bombshell. The spirit wasn't just haunting my house, it was attached to me. It had latched onto my energy, my fear, and my negativity, and it was feeding off me like a parasite. She warned me that the more I engaged with the entity, the stronger it would become, and that I needed to find a way to break free from its grasp before it was too late. The medium agreed to perform a cleansing ritual, but her warning sent a chill down my spine. "This won't be easy," she said, her eyes locked on mine. "The entity is powerful, and it won't give up without a fight." I steeled myself for the ritual, knowing that it was my only hope for liberation. The night of the ritual was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. As the medium began chanting, the temperature in the room plummeted, and the air grew thick with an eerie, unsettling energy. Shadows seemed to come alive, swirling around us like a dark vortex that threatened to consume us whole. The medium's voice rose and fell in a hypnotic cadence, but I could feel the entity's presence growing stronger, more menacing. Suddenly, the medium stopped and looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. "It's angry," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of my own racing heart. The lights flickered violently, casting eerie shadows on the walls as a guttural growl echoed through the room. I felt an invisible force shove me to the ground, pinning me there with a crushing weight that made it hard to breathe. The medium screamed for me to repeat after her, and together we chanted a banishment prayer. Our voices rose and fell in a desperate, urgent rhythm, but the force pressing down on me seemed to be getting stronger, more relentless. I felt like I was being squeezed, crushed, and suffocated, but I refused to give up. I repeated the words, my voice growing hoarse and raw as the medium's voice rose to a fevered pitch. And then, just when it seemed like the entity was about to overwhelm us, the force lifted and the shadows receded. The room was silent except for the sound of our ragged breathing. But the entity wasn't done yet. With one final, defiant act, it unleashed a piercing scream that filled the air, shaking the walls and making my blood run cold. The scream faded into silence, leaving behind a stillness that was almost more terrifying than the chaos that had come before. The house was shrouded in an unsettling silence after that night, as if the very presence of the entity had been extinguished. The oppressive feeling that had once suffocated me never returned, and I was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. I've since moved away from that place, leaving behind the memories of the terror I experienced. But the encounter left an indelible mark on my psyche, imbuing me with a deep-seated respect and fear for the unknown. Dealing with that malevolent spirit was a wake-up call, a stark reminder that there are forces beyond our understanding that can wreak havoc on our lives. It's not something to be taken lightly, and it's certainly not something I'd ever want to face again. The experience changed my perspective on the supernatural forever, leaving me with a haunting question. What other secrets lie beyond the veil of reality, waiting to be uncovered? Now that you've heard my terrifying tale, I want to hear from you. Have you ever encountered something that left you with more questions than answers? Something that made your skin crawl or your heart racing? Share your own spine-tingling story in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your experiences with the unknown. And if you're craving more chilling tales like this one, be sure to check out my other videos on the paranormal, where I delve into the darker side of reality. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all my latest content. Let's keep the conversation going and explore the mysteries of the unknown together. Thank you for watching this chilling story. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more terrifying tales. Explore other genres of horror and scary stories on this channel. There's something to keep every horror fan awake at night. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new upload.